Welcome to the DePaul College of Law Bluebook Podcast, a series of podcasts designed to teach 1L students the basics of legal citation using the Bluebook. In the last episode, we learned how to complete our basic citation format by adding the court name, jurisdiction, and date of decision to the case name and reporter information. In this episode, we will explore some of the Bluebook's rules for forming and abbreviating case names. We will look at Rules 10.2.1c, d, and h, Rule 10.2.2, and Bluebook tables T6 and T10. You'll want to have your copy of the Bluebook in front of you as you watch this podcast. After watching this podcast, you should be able to complete Bluebook Homework 3. When we introduced the Bluebook to you in Lesson 1, we briefly discussed the difference between a citation used in a textual sentence versus a citation in a citation sentence. We learned that when writing memos or court documents, it didn't matter whether the cite was in a textual sentence or a citation sentence when underlining or italicizing a case name. But when it comes to forming and abbreviating the words in our case names, the location of the cite will dictate which pieces of this case name must be altered. So what is a citation in a textual sentence? It simply means that you've placed the cite in the middle of your prose. Look at this example. In this sentence, the writer has placed the citation for Peachin versus Dynapro in the middle of his sentence about the case's holding. This placement makes the citation a citation in a textual sentence. Now, although there may be times when placing your cite within your textual sentence is advisable, please avoid doing so whenever possible. Cites in the middle of your sentences make the sentences more difficult for your reader to read and process what you're trying to say. It'll also invite bad writing. In general, when forming the case name for your cites, you want to use the name that appears at the beginning of the opinion in the caption. You'll want to keep the first full word of each party's name. But this doesn't apply to individuals. We omit given names or initials of individuals and use only the surname. Occasionally, you'll have a case with a very long or cumbersome name. When you do, you should omit any words that are not necessary to identify the parties or case. Where the case or opinion does not have a clear case name, use a popular case name or simply judgment of and then insert the date. These general rules are further modified by the remainder of Rule 10.2.1. So let's take a look at 10.2.1c on page 91. 10.2.1c tells us to abbreviate two categories of words. First, abbreviate widely known acronyms. This applies to any organization or entity that is better known or equally known by its letters rather than full name. Some examples include the FBI, CIA, NAACP, and even corporate entities such as IBM and 3M. These abbreviated names do not contain any spaces or periods between the capital letters used to form them. Second, abbreviate the Big Eight. These are words commonly associated with business names or business entities. They include and, association, brothers, company, corporation, incorporated, limited, and number. But do not abbreviate any of the Big Eight if they begin a party's name. You may still abbreviate the widely known acronyms, though. So in this first example, we will keep the acronym for the NAACP. But in the second example, the first party's name begins with one of the Big Eight, number. But because this is a cite in a textual sentence, and number is the first word in the party's name, we will not be abbreviating number to NO period. 10.2.1d presents the issue. In general, we're going to cut the from a party's name except under three specific circumstances. First, where the is part of a name of the object in an in rem action. This would be an action brought about an inanimate object, such as here, the Clinton Bridge. We're also going to keep the in cases involving the king or the queen. Finally, we're going to keep the where it's part of a case's popular name. But even in the middle of a textual sentence, we're going to eliminate the from the case name to avoid a double the in our prose. 10.2.1h governs duplicate business designations in a case name. Under this rule, If your case name contains a term such as association, brothers, company, corporation, or railroad, you should eliminate the second business designation, such as limited, incorporated, LLC, NA, or FSB. This rule is to be read narrowly, though. You want to eliminate the second business designation only where the business couldn't be mistaken for another entity. When in doubt, include the second designation. Here's an example. In the first case name, we see that the party name includes both company and incorporated. Looking back at 10.2.1H, we see that both incorporated and company are specifically listed in the rule as duplicate business designations that will allow us to omit second designation. Therefore, the case name becomes number 1 Little Blue Engine Company. Now let's contrast the rules for case names in textual sentences with case names in citation sentences. Look at the example using Peach and Case that we saw earlier. Here, the author placed the full case name and cite outside of her prose in a separate citation sentence. So if you're placing your cites in separate sentences outside of your prose, you'll follow these rules for abbreviating your case names. Again, remember that this is the preferred placement for your cites because it will help you write more clearly and help your reader better focus on your thoughts rather than the interrupting citations. So what do we abbreviate in a case name when that name is in a citation sentence? In short, about everything. First, abbreviate everything you would abbreviate in the textual sentence cite. In other words, make all the modifications that were required by 10.2.1. But we're also going to abbreviate any word that you find in T6 on pages 430 to 431. As a new legal writer, you will need to refer back to this table frequently, checking each word in your case against the list of words here. Now take a look at the opening paragraph to T6. In addition to the words listed in T6, you may abbreviate any word of 8 letters or more if you save substantial space and the result is unambiguous. In other words, the word attorney, though not listed in T6, may be abbreviated to ATT''Y. Also, note that T6 tells us to form the plural of any of the terms listed in T6. You'll need to add an S to the abbreviation, unless T6 already provides for the plural. So what does that mean? Well, take a look at the entry for correction. It contains an S and AL in brackets after correction. This means that correction, corrections, and correctional all have the same abbreviation, CORR. Now look at the entry for academy. It does not have a plural listed. So if your case name contained the term academies rather than academy, your abbreviation for that term would be ACADS. When forming your abbreviations under T6, pay close attention to the punctuation within and ending each abbreviation. Not every abbreviation will end in a period. Some abbreviations retain the last letter of the word and eliminate letters in the middle. Those will have an apostrophe. Next, under 10.2.2, abbreviate any geographic location listed in T10 unless that geographic location is the entire name of the party. You should remember T10 from our last Bluebook lesson. T10 contains the abbreviations for U.S. states, cities, and territories. It also contains the abbreviations for foreign countries, territories, and cities. Remember, the abbreviation for states under the Bluebook may or may not be the same as the state's postal code. Refer to T10 for the correct abbreviation. When the United States is the entire name of a party, you can eliminate the of America from the end, but you cannot abbreviate United States to U.S. Finally, unlike case names in textual sentences, in a citation sentence, you should abbreviate all the words that you can, including the first word for each party's name. Look at this example from earlier. Your case name in the caption is the number 1 Little Blue Engine Company Incorporated versus Thomas. Under 10.2.1h, which also applies to citation sentences, we know we can eliminate incorporated because the first party's name includes company. But unlike in our earlier textual sentence example, we can also abbreviate number to NO period, even though it begins the party's name.